Welcome to the very first episode of Deep Dive Stoic. I'm so glad you're here with us today. We're going to be diving deep into the world of Stoicism and exploring how its ancient wisdom can be applied to our lives today.
It's great to be here. I'm excited to embark on this journey of exploring Stoicism and uncovering its practical applications for modern living.
Yeah, one of the things that really drew me to Stoicism is this idea that our happiness is directly tied to the quality of our thoughts.
Right. And that's such a powerful concept, especially in today's world where we are bombarded with so much information and stimulation.
Absolutely. Think about it. We can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we react to it.
Exactly. And that's where Stoicism comes in. It provides us with a framework for understanding and managing our emotions so that we can respond to challenges in a more constructive way.
I love that. So, to put it in the words of Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, he said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts."
And that's a quote that really resonates with me. It's a reminder that we have the power to choose our thoughts and that our thoughts have a direct impact on our experience of life.
Absolutely. So in this deep dive, we're going to explore some practical strategies for cultivating Stoic virtues like resilience, intentionality, and gratitude.
And we're going to start by looking at how we can apply Stoicism to our morning routines.
Right, because those first few hours of the day can really set the tone for the rest of the day.
They absolutely can. And by incorporating some simple Stoic practices into our mornings, we can create a more intentional, productive, and fulfilling day.
I'm really excited to dive into that. So where should we start?
Well, let's start by talking about something called Ikigai.
Ikigai?
Yes, Ikigai. It's a Japanese concept that roughly translates to reason for being.
Okay, reason for being, I like that.
And it's this beautiful intersection of four things: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for.
So Ikigai is like finding that sweet spot where your passions, your talents, your values, and your means of making a living all align.
Exactly. And when you find that, you're not just going to work every day, you're going to be living a life that is truly meaningful and fulfilling.
I can see how that aligns with Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius talked a lot about finding our purpose and contributing to the common good.
He did. And he believed that each of us has a unique role to play in the world.
Right. And Ikigai can help us discover that role and live it out.
It absolutely can. So if you're feeling a bit lost or directionless in life, exploring your Ikigai can be a powerful exercise.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
So how do we actually go about discovering our Ikigai?
Well, there are a few things you can do. First, start by reflecting on what you're truly passionate about. What activities make you feel alive and energized?
Got it. So things that really light you up.
Exactly. Then think about what you're naturally good at. What skills and talents come easily to you?
What are my strengths?
Yes, your strengths. And then consider what the world needs. What problems are you passionate about solving? What contributions do you want to make?
Okay, that makes sense.
And finally, think about what you can be paid for. What skills and talents are in demand?
So it's not just about finding your passion, but also finding a way to make a living from it.
Exactly. And remember, it's not always a straightforward process. It can take time and experimentation to figure out your Ikigai.
But the journey itself can be incredibly rewarding.
It absolutely can. And the more you align your actions with your Ikigai, the more fulfilling and meaningful your life will become.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about another important Stoic principle: preparing for the day ahead.
That's a crucial one. The Stoics believe that the quality of our day often depends on how we prepare for it.
So they were advocates for having a solid morning routine.
Absolutely. They understood that the way we start our day can have a huge impact on our mood, our productivity, and our overall well-being.
Okay, so what kind of things would a Stoic recommend for a good morning routine?
Well, one of the key things is to create a calm and intentional space for yourself.
Right, no checking email first thing in the morning.
Exactly. It's about resisting the urge to immediately dive into the digital world and instead give yourself some time to connect with yourself.
I can see how that would be beneficial. So what would that look like in practice?
Well, it might involve things like meditation, journaling, reading something inspiring, or simply enjoying a cup of coffee or tea in silence.
So it's about creating a ritual that nourishes your mind and body and sets a positive tone for the day.
Precisely. And it doesn't have to be elaborate or time-consuming. Even a few minutes of mindful practice can make a big difference.
That's encouraging. It makes this whole idea of a Stoic morning routine feel much more attainable.
Absolutely. And remember, the key is to be intentional about it. Choose activities that truly support your well-being and align with your values.
So it's not just about going through the motions, but about bringing awareness and purpose to those actions.
Exactly. And as you do that consistently, you'll start to notice a shift in your energy, your focus, and your overall outlook on the day.
I'm really starting to see the power of this. Now, you mentioned consistency, and that reminds me of another important Stoic principle: discipline.
Ah, yes. Discipline was considered a cardinal virtue by the Stoics.
And how does that apply to our morning routine?
Well, it's about establishing habits that support our goals and then sticking to them, even when we don't feel like it.
Right, so it's about showing up for ourselves, even on those days when the warm bed is calling our name.
Precisely. And this applies to all aspects of our morning routine, from our wake-up time to the activities we choose to engage in.
So for example, if we decide we want to start meditating every morning, the discipline would be in consistently making time for that practice, even when we're feeling tired or rushed.
Exactly. And it's in those moments of resistance that our discipline is truly tested.
But like you said, it's in those moments that we also have the opportunity to strengthen our willpower and cultivate a greater sense of self-mastery.
Absolutely. And the more we practice discipline in our morning routine, the more it spills over into other areas of our lives.
That makes sense. It's like building a muscle. The more we exercise it, the stronger it becomes.
Exactly. Now, let's address something that might come up when we talk about discipline and consistency. What about those days when we inevitably fall short of our intentions?
Yeah, because let's be real, no one's perfect.
Exactly. And that's where another important Stoic principle comes in: self-compassion.
Self-compassion. So it's not about beating ourselves up when we slip up, but about being understanding and forgiving.
Precisely. Because the Stoics understood that we are all human and that mistakes are part of the learning process.
So instead of letting guilt and frustration derail our progress, we can choose to view those moments as opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. And to gently guide ourselves back to our intended path.
That's such a powerful reminder, because it's so easy to get caught up in that cycle of self-criticism. But self-compassion allows us to break free and move forward with a renewed sense of purpose.
Absolutely. And remember, self-compassion doesn't mean lowering our standards or making excuses for our shortcomings. It simply means recognizing that we are all works in progress and that we deserve our own kindness and understanding.
I love that. So to recap what we've covered so far: Ikigai, preparing for the day ahead; discipline; and self-compassion. Are there any other key Stoic principles that we can apply to our morning routine?
Well, let's talk about one that might seem a bit counterintuitive at first: negative visualization.
Negative visualization.
Yes. And before you think it's all doom and gloom, let me explain. It's not about dwelling on negative thoughts or expecting the worst to happen. It's actually a technique for building resilience and appreciating the good things in our lives.
Okay, that sounds interesting. How does it work?
So the idea is to periodically take some time to imagine potential challenges or setbacks that we might face.
For example?
It could be anything from missing our train to losing our job. The key is to not get caught up in the fear or anxiety that these thoughts might trigger, but to simply acknowledge them and then mentally prepare for how we would handle the situation if it were to occur.
So it's like a mental rehearsal for dealing with difficult situations.
Exactly. And the more we practice negative visualization, the less likely we are to be thrown off balance when those challenges actually arise.
And you're saying it also helps us appreciate the good things in our lives.
It does, because when we take the time to imagine life without certain things, like our health or our loved ones, it makes us more grateful for what we do have.
That's fascinating. It's like the old saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Exactly. And negative visualization is a way of bringing that awareness into the present moment so that we can savor and appreciate the good things while we have them.
So it's a way of shifting our perspective and cultivating a deeper sense of gratitude.
Precisely. Now, let's talk about another important Stoic practice that can be incorporated into our morning routine: memento mori.
Memento mori. That's Latin for remember that you must die.
It is. And while it might sound a bit morbid at first, it's actually a very powerful reminder to live our lives to the fullest.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does reflecting on our mortality help us live a better life?
Well, for one thing, it helps us prioritize what's truly important. When we remember that our time is limited, we're less likely to waste it on things that don't matter.
Right. We start to see things from a different perspective.
We do. And we're more likely to pursue our passions, nurture our relationships, and make a positive impact on the world.
I like that. So memento mori is not about being afraid of death, but about using the awareness of our mortality to live a more intentional and meaningful life.
Exactly. And there are many ways to incorporate this practice into our daily lives. We can meditate on it, write about it, or simply take a few moments each morning to reflect on the fact that we are not guaranteed tomorrow.
That's a powerful practice. And speaking of powerful practices, let's talk about another one that's really central to Stoicism: gratitude.
Gratitude is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy.
And it's something that we can cultivate, right?
Absolutely. And the more we practice gratitude, the more we experience its benefits.
Which are?
Well, for one thing, gratitude makes us happier. It helps us focus on the good things in our lives, even when things are tough.
It's like a shift in perspective. Instead of dwelling on what we lack, we start to appreciate what we have.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can have a profound impact on our well-being.
Absolutely. So how can we cultivate more gratitude in our lives?
Well, there are many ways. We can keep a gratitude journal where we write down things we're thankful for each day. We can express our gratitude to others, both verbally and through acts of kindness. And we can simply make a conscious effort to notice and appreciate the good things in our lives, no matter how small they might seem.
I love those suggestions. And the beautiful thing about gratitude is that it's a practice that we can benefit from at any time of day, not just in the morning.
That's true. But starting our day with gratitude can be particularly powerful.
How so?
Well, it sets a positive tone for the day ahead. It helps us approach our challenges with more resilience and optimism. And it reminds us of all the good things we have in our lives, which can boost our mood and motivation.
I could see how that would be a great way to start the day. Now, before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share about the Stoic approach to morning routines?
Just this. Remember that it's a journey, not a destination.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to creating a Stoic morning routine. It's about experimenting with different practices and finding what works best for you.
Right. It's about customizing it to our individual needs and preferences.
Exactly. And it's also about being patient with ourselves. It takes time to develop new habits and integrate them into our lives.
So don't be discouraged if you don't get it perfect right away.
Exactly. Just keep practicing and refining your routine until it feels authentic and supportive.
That's great advice. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Just this. The Stoics believed that the purpose of philosophy was to help us live a better life.
And by applying these principles to our morning routines, we can start our days with more intention, resilience, and gratitude.
Absolutely. And those qualities will ripple out into all areas of our lives.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us